came from, what you wore, how you talk. Yeah. If your answer is yes, you've experienced what this entire speech is about. You have felt what it's like to be judged before you have had the chance to explain yourself. That's why I chose this title. Think twice. How stereotypes harm us all. Alright, we dive into the material. What are stereotypes? So, what exactly are stereotypes? At their core, stereotypes are generalizations. They are simplified ideas or assumptions we make about groups of people. We tend to think they help us understand others more quickly. But in reality, they flatten the complexity of human beings. They sound like girl can't drive, men should not cry, people from rural areas are less educated, Asian students are good at math, or people from rich families must be arrogant. These statements are not observations, they are assumptions, and assumptions leave no space for truth. According to BetterHelp, a popular mental health platform, explained that stereotypes are often built from things we hear repeatedly, from the media, our environment, and the people around us. Over time, this message becomes so normalized that we stop questioning them. We begin to see them not just as opinions, but as facts. And when that happens, we stop seeing people as individuals. Instead of understanding their unique story, we apply a pre-written script, and often we get the story completely wrong. Alright, why do we use stereotypes? Now, let's explore why stereotypes exist in the first place. There are four main reasons, and each one tells us something about how our minds and our society work. The first is mental shortcuts. Our brains process thousands of pieces of information every day. In order to cope, we rely on patterns. When we meet someone new, we instinctively try to compare them to someone we already know, or fit them into category. It's our brain's way of saving time. Someone's worth, intelligence, or values becomes deeply harmful. The second is a reason learned behavior. No one is born racist, sexist, or biased. These are things we absorb from our environment, from childhood jokes, family opinions, or even schoolyard insults. A boy might grow up hearing, "You're quite a man," and carry that with him forever. A girl might hear, "Don't be too ambitious. People would not like that," and hold herself back. This message shapes how we see others and how we see ourselves. The third is the power of media and popular culture. Think about the kinds of characters we see in movies, on TV, in online content. Who is the villain? Who is the hero? Who always gets portrayed as a poor, as a smart, as a funny, as a criminal? Who always these repeated images don't just entertain us, they educate us. They tell us what's normal and what's other. The problem is the story we are told are not always based on truth. They are based on what sells and what fits old formulas. The fourth is a lack of exposure. When we don't have real, meaningful contact with people from different backgrounds, we rely on stereotypes to fill in blanks. And often the blanks are filled with fear, mistrust, or oversimplifications. It's easy to believe something false about a group if you have never taken the time to get to know someone from the group personally. That's why dialogue and connection are such powerful tools to break down bias. So, why does all this matter? Why should we care about stereotypes? Because they are not just thoughts, they shape real outcomes in the world. First, they affect how we treat others. If a teacher believes boys are naturally better at science, she might, without realizing it, give them more attention. A hiring manager who stereotypes Muslim women as less independent might overlook a brilliant candidate just because she wears a hijab. These unconscious beliefs have very real consequences. Second, they affect how we see ourselves. When we grow up surrounded by stereotypes about our group, we start to internalize them. If people constantly say your race is lazy, or your community lacks discipline, or your gender is not made for leadership, eventually even the most confident people start to doubt themselves. That doubt doesn't come from within, it's planted there by the world. And the third, stereotypes damage relationships. When someone feels close and they lose trust, they stop sharing, they start protecting themselves. Friendships suffer, collaboration suffer, all because of invisible walls that should not exist. And finally, stereotypes create injustice. They affect who gets seen as trustworthy, who gets arrested more, who gets paid less, who gets too late. They show up in policies, in schools, and in courtrooms. Stereotypes are not just about people, they are about systems, and those systems are unfair. I had personally experienced the pressure that comes with being stereotyped, even in a positive way. This is not a flexing, but in high school, I was often known as the smart. People would say, "Oh, you're always number one," or "Of course, you'll get a perfect score. You always do." At first, I smiled and said thank you, but over time, I started feeling like I was not allowed to mess up. I couldn't ask questions. I couldn't show my weakness. I was expected to be perfect. And it was not just tiring, it was isolating. Because I felt like no one saw the real me, just the image they had created. That's when I learned even praise can be harmful when it turns into a stereotype, when people expect you to perform instead of letting you be a human. And that it's hard. Alright, stereotypes don't appear from nowhere. They are shaped by powerful forces in history and cultures. For example, colonialism plays a huge role in spreading harmful narrative about who was civilized and who was not. These narratives were used to justify control, and even after independence, many of those ideas stayed in our society. Family and community also influence us. You might have grown up hearing this like, people from that city are stingy, or don't marry someone from that background. These beliefs become part of how we feel the world, unless we challenge them. Another source is gender roles and expectations. Society often tells us girls should be soft-spoken, boys should be strong, like that. And anyone who steps outside that script gets judged, not for who they are, but for not following the unwritten rules. And finally, media representations plays a huge role. When certain groups are only shown as poor, violent, or contradict, we begin to link identity with behavior, even when that's far from the truth. In this material, Indonesian versus Western stereotypes. In Indonesian stereotypes, in some global views, Indonesians are stereotypes as lazy, easygoing, or hardworking, and committed. This stereotype may that related to the Indonesian stereotypes. Let's take a look.
Indonesian also
at the
have
video.
our stereotypes. And the stereotype for Indonesian is that we are lazy. But it is not true. The Indonesians are not lazy. We're just not accustomed to work hard. It's different. Okay, this is something, it's generational, it's in our DNA, because since the days of hunters and gatherers, we don't have to work. Indonesia is a tropical country, so we don't have deadlines like the winter to hunt and gather food. There's always tomorrow in Indonesia. Just like one of the most famous saying in Indonesia is, kalau bisa besok, kenapa harus hari ini? Which means, if you can do it tomorrow, why do it today? And I know what you might be thinking, Steve, you're thinking, I might be Indonesian myself.
Alright, the next slide please. This is the Western stereotypes. Westerners are often seen as individualistic, focused on personal goals and independence. These stereotypes oversimplify complex cultures and often ignore context. This is the video of
The Western cultures are quite individualistic. They focus a lot on you as an individual. I really do like being independent, but you cannot base your entire happiness on your self-achievements. You need to base your happiness also on how other people in your life are doing, on your relationships, on your family.
Right, while looking at how stereotypes show up in the relationship between Indonesian and Western cultures, in global conversations, Indonesians are sometimes unfairly stereotyped as lazy, less productive, or overly relaxed. But let me ask you, is that really true? Or is it a reflection of cultural misunderstanding?
Is
What
that
do you think?
true? Yeah,
This is
that's
true.
true.
Right. In Indonesian society, we often value togetherness, patience, and emotional harmony. We may move at a different pace, but that doesn't mean we don't work hard or care deeply about results. The danger of this stereotype is that it frames a cultural difference as a personal flaw. On the other hand, Westerners are often stereotyped by Indonesians as cold, individualistic, or emotionally distant. We may say they only care about themselves, or they don't know how to respect elders. But again, this is an oversimplification. In many Western societies, independence is a sign of maturity, and expressing your opinion is encouraged. The real harm here is that these assumptions prevent genuine connections. Instead of learning from one another, we reduce each other to cliches. We miss the opportunity to grow, to blend the best of both worlds. Stereotypes build walls when what we really need are bridged. So, what's the actual damage? Why do stereotypes deserve our attentions and our actions? First, they prevent people from showing their true selves. Imagine being in a room where everyone expects you to act a certain way, not based on who you are, but where you are from or how you looked. You begin to hide, you shrink, you perform instead of live. That's not freedom. That's a prison made of perceptions. Second, stereotypes lead to missed chances. Opportunities vanish when someone is judged before they even begin. Students might not be chosen to lead, an idea might be ignored, a job might never be offered, not because of ability, but because of assumptions. Third, they increase misunderstandings between groups. One comment, one facial expressions, one stereotypes can create tension. Where there should have been a curiosity, misunderstanding turns into mistrust turn into divisions. And lastly, stereotypes fit into bigger problems: prejudice, discrimination, and social inequality. What starts as a harmless joke can end up shaping focus policies, fleeting hate and limiting people's futures. Sorry. And why we must think twice? This is why I called this speech a think twice, because we all have moments where we make snaps or judgments. It's a human. But it's also our responsibility to pause, to think again. We must think twice because stereotypes are often wrong. Even when they seem positive, they are still dangerous. They flatten people's identities into something one-dimensional. We must think twice because every person is unique. We are not statistics, we are not headlines, we are stories. And no story deserves to be told wrong just because someone could not be bothered to listen. And we must think twice because thinking leads to understanding, and understanding leads to kindness. And it's not the kind of world we all want. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it, stereotypes are bad, but what we can do about that? Here's the good news. Change doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with everyday choices. First, pause before making a quick judgment. If someone's behavior surprises you, ask yourself, am I reacting to them or to a stereotype I've been taught? Second, meet and learn from different people. Don't stay in your bubble. The more diversity you are exposed to, the more your mind expands. Real stories break fake patterns. Third, questions what media show us. Not everything we see on the screens is accurate, right? Who is being represented and who is not? What roles do they play? Media trains our brains, but we can choose what we consume. And fourth, practice empathy. Before you speak, before you joke, before you judge, imagine what it feels like to be on the other side. Because kindness is not about agreeing with everyone, it's about honoring their humanity. Alright, in conclusion, stereotypes may seem natural, but they often cause more harm than good. They limit how we see others and stop us from appreciating each person's true self. By thinking twice before judging,